We begin the third day of our Europe tour with a morning stroll in Rome. We're heading to several fascinating churches through the arcades here near the Piazza della Repubblica to the Baths of Diocletian, which has been rebuilt and redesigned into a beautiful church by Michelangelo. Crossing Roman streets can be quite a challenge, especially in a group of 30 people as we are. Into the church of Santa Maria degli Angeli. It took the ancient Romans 10 years to construct this bathhouse between the years 295 and 305, and it was the largest of all the Roman bathhouses. It was later redesigned by Michelangelo in the peak of the Renaissance in the 1560s into the splendid and gorgeous church that you see here today. Michelangelo retained many of the original architectural elements of the Roman bathhouse, including the barrel-vaulted ceiling with the cross arches, and the huge red granite columns are original. And the general feeling still retains a lot of that original Roman charm. In the old days, Roman bathhouses were for more than simply bathing. They were social gathering places. There would be lecture halls and art galleries. Business would take place here, as well as bathing and physical exercises. The Basilica of Santa Maria degli Angeli, the finest surviving of the ancient Roman bathhouses in Rome. It's located on the Piazza della Repubblica. Nearby is the Church of Santa Susanna, designed by Carlo Maderno, who also designed the Church of Santa Maria della Vittoria you see here, just a block away. And inside it contains Bernini's greatest masterpiece. That's right. This is considered by many to be the finest sculpture ever carved by Bernini, which is really saying something, considering he was probably the greatest of the Roman Baroque sculptors. This is the Ecstasy of Teresa, located in the little inconspicuous church of Santa Maria della Vittoria. Two other notable churches are in this neighborhood. San Carlo alle Quattro Fontane, designed by Borromini, is one of his finest works. The tiny interior is based on an oval plan. This entire little church would fit inside one of the pillars of St. Peter's, but it appears much larger because of the rhythmical geometric space that Borromini created. The bold and fluid curves and polyhedrons interact in such a way to keep your eye quite busy and yet give you a feeling of peace and restfulness and tranquility while you're inside this miniature gem. San Carlo alle Quattro Fontane. The attached cloister is also microcosmic in scale, and yet here too we have a feeling of completeness and a world unto itself. The cloister was Borromini's first work in Rome, and the facade, finished in 1667, was one of Borromini's final works in this city, showing the full power of this great architect with its rhythmic concave and convex surfaces and richly decorated with statues, including a statue of San Carlo Borromeo himself. Just a block away is a similar little jewel, this done by the great rival Bernini. It's the only church that Bernini completely designed and built from scratch himself. So the entire plan was conceived in the high Baroque style and built between 1658 and 1670, the beautiful oval dome. Thus the entire scenario of architecture and sculpture and design plan fit cohesively together in almost a theatrical presentation. This is unlike many of the other churches in Rome that were built in one wave in the 16th century, and then 100 years later their interiors were redesigned in the Baroque style, and sometimes things didn't quite mesh. Here it's all of a piece. This is the pearl of the Baroque. Bernini's mastery of colored marbles and stucco figures and architectural controls has created a rich and beautiful decor. It's most fortunate these two little churches are within a block of each other, providing a wonderful contrast in style between these two great rivals of 17th century Rome. Attached to San Andrea is a very interesting sacristy. You may have to ask the priest for permission to enter, and he'll open the door for you and turn the lights on. and you'll find this magnificent trompe-l'oeil ceiling done in a high Baroque style. This pretty frescoed ceiling presents illusionistic works of painted architectural details, painted windows and columns and arches, mixed in with the real architecture. This marvelous ceiling was painted by Giovanni della Borde in a design that was approved by the master Bernini himself. It's quite an aesthetic stimulation to enjoy and compare these two architectural masterpieces located within just a block of each other. Walking back past the gardens of the Quirinali, we return to Le Quattro Fontane. At the intersection of two narrow, busy streets, the corners of the four buildings each contain a fountain and statue of a reclining Roman deity. And again in the background, we see Borromini's San Carlino, a Baroque masterpiece that you really must see when you're in Rome. Leaving this mystical tranquility, we plunge back into the sometimes chaotic streets of the city. Walking down Via delle Quattro Fontane, past the Palazzo Barberini, which is one of the national art museums in Rome. We're heading for Piazza Barberini with Bernini's Fountain of the Triton here, and plunging down into the Roman subway system for another leg of our morning walk. With our Hawaii Geographic Society Tours of Europe, we always make it a point to travel as the locals do, and in this case it means riding the Roman subway. It's a handy way to get around town, to get from one side of town to the other, especially when you're in a group of about 30 people as we are here today. A group of people from Honolulu traveling together through Europe. We're starting in Rome, going up to Florence and Venice, on to Switzerland, Paris, and London in our 18-day annual train tour of Europe. Today we're heading for the Vatican Museum, walking up the beautiful spiral staircase of the popes that leads you right into this great collection of antiquities and great paintings and sculptures in the Vatican Museum. You can take the elevator to get up to the entrance of the museum, but more interesting is to walk up this spectacular spiral staircase. It's actually a double spiral, one level for going up and the other level for going down. It was built in 1932 by an architect named Giuseppe Momo. And be sure to have a look from the top. Lean over the railing and you'll get this incredible vista looking down the spiral staircase leading into the Vatican. Too many people just huff and puff their way up and don't even stop to look over the railing, and they miss out on this incredible view looking down the spiral. And then you're soon standing on line to buy your tickets to get into the museum. It costs about $8 to get in, and it's certainly well worth it. There's hundreds of statues inside, including busts of the ancient Roman emperors, and the large bronze pine cone is a Roman original. One of the finest pieces in the entire museum is the Apollo Belvedere. This graceful marble shows the artistic perfection of Roman sculptors of the 2nd century. The Laocoon is one of the most important sculptures in the history of art, carved in a Hellenistic style on Rhodes in the 1st century BC. It was rediscovered in the 1500s by the artists of the Renaissance and revolutionized their view of human anatomy and artistic expression. These are found in the octagonal Belvedere courtyard. Some other galleries include the Animal Room, the Hall of Tapestries, Flemish tapestries, and the Map Gallery, showing many of the important Roman battles. Perhaps the most important room of paintings in the museum itself is the stanzas of Raphael. Here you see the famous School of Athens, which represents the triumph of philosophy, and there's Raphael looking at you in a self-portrait that he sneaked into the School of Athens. Even the floors of the Vatican Museum, and particularly the rooms of Raphael, are magnificent works of art in themselves. On to the finest of all the attractions of the Vatican Museum, the Sistine Chapel. Recently renovated, the ceiling is now brilliant in its original colors, painted by Michelangelo. Scenes from the Bible, most importantly, Genesis. It's certainly the most important painting in the world, but it's not the only thing to see in the Vatican museums. There's countless rooms with more galleries, more sculptures, examples of furnishings, jewelry, and here we have the Vatican Library, whose ceiling in itself is a great work of art. That's it for our very quick tour of the Vatican Museum. Walking back down and out the Spiral of the Popes, this magnificent double bronze spiral staircase that leads you both in and out of the museum. There's also an elevator that you can take, and here we are going down in the elevator this time. It's a very elegant and very large oak-paneled elevator. It's a good way to get into the museum, but again, don't forget to have a good look at that spiral staircase.